Break free from overthinking and experience pure presence. There is a moment, a fleeting whisper in time, where we are truly free. A space between thoughts, a pause between breaths. That moment is not in the future. It is not in the past. It is right now. But how often do we live in that space? How often do we inhabit the purity of now, rather than being dragged through the endless labyrinth of our own thoughts? We wake up, and before our feet even touch the ground, our minds are already racing, calculating, planning, worrying, replaying conversations, anticipating problems that haven't happened yet, reliving memories we can no longer change. We carry the weight of 1,000 thoughts, most of them unnecessary, most of them repeating themselves like an old, broken record. But have you ever stopped to ask, where do these thoughts come from? Who is thinking them? Here's something most people never realize: we do not think our thoughts. Our thoughts think us. Let that sink in. Most people believe they are the ones in control of their thinking. But in reality, our minds operate on autopilot, conditioned by years of habit, culture, fears, desires, and a need for certainty. Our thoughts arise without our consent. They appear, unbidden, demanding attention. And before we know it, we are lost in them. We think about what we need to do tomorrow. We replay the mistakes of yesterday. We stress about what other people think of us. And then, we call this constant mental chatter being productive. But is it? Or is it just an illusion of control? Imagine a river, flowing effortlessly through a valley. It does not hesitate. It does not think about where it is going. It simply moves, adapting to the landscape, merging with the ocean without resistance. But now, imagine a person standing in that river, trying to grab the water, trying to stop it from flowing, trying to hold on to a single drop as if it were something permanent. This is what we do with our thoughts. We cling to them. We believe they define us. We treat them as if they are real. But in truth, they are like the river, always moving, always shifting. And the moment we try to grasp them, we suffer. So how do we break free? The answer is deceptively simple: we do not need to stop thinking. We need to stop identifying with our thoughts. Right now, take a deep breath. As you exhale, notice the silence between your thoughts. It is there, even if just for a split second. That silence is who you truly are. That presence is what remains when the noise of the mind fades. Most people spend their lives trapped in their heads, unaware that another dimension of existence is possible, a dimension of pure presence, where thoughts no longer dictate our reality. But presence is not something we find. It is something we return to. It is already here. It is just buried under layers of noise. So I ask you, what would happen if, for just one day, you decided not to believe every thought that entered your mind? Would your problems still seem so overwhelming? Would your fears still feel as real? Would the past and future still have a grip on you? Most of our suffering is self-created. Not because life is difficult, but because we resist what is and instead dwell in what could be. We create problems in our minds that do not exist in reality. A simple situation happens, someone says something to us. A mistake occurs. We feel a sensation in our body, and instead of letting it be, we attach a narrative to it. This means I'm not good enough. This means I will fail. This means they don't like me. But do you see what is happening? The event itself is neutral. It is our mind that gives it meaning. And that meaning, more often than not, is based on fear. So here's a radical experiment. What if you let life happen without interpreting it? What if you let things be as they are? Without attaching a label, a judgment, a prediction? What if you watched your thoughts the way you watch clouds move across the sky, without needing to chase them? Without needing to hold on to them? Would you still be the same person? Or would you finally taste what it means to be free? The hidden addiction you never knew you had, and how it controls your life. Most people believe addiction is about substances, alcohol, drugs, sugar. But what if I told you that the greatest addiction in the world has nothing to do with any of those? What if I told you that the most powerful addiction of all is something we engage in every single day? Every single hour. Without even realizing it. That addiction is thinking. Yes. Thinking. The endless stream of mental chatter that runs through our minds from the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep. The addiction to rumination. Problem solving. Worrying. Imagining. Analyzing. Judging. Predicting. The addiction to identifying with our thoughts as if they are who we are. And just like any addiction, thinking gives us a false sense of control. We believe that if we think more, we can prevent bad things from happening. We believe that if we analyze a situation long enough, we can change the past or control the future. But can we? Or is this just an illusion? Think about the last time you were worried about something. Maybe it was a decision you had to make. A conversation that didn't go well. An uncertain future event. You probably thought about it over and over. Trying to predict every possible outcome. Replaying scenarios in your head like a broken film reel. But did all that thinking actually help you? Or did it just make you feel more anxious? We believe thinking will give us answers. But in reality, it keeps us trapped. We confuse mental noise with clarity. We believe that if we just think a little more, we will find peace. But peace doesn't come from thinking. Peace comes from being. And yet, we don't stop. Why? Because, just like any addiction, thinking gives us a dopamine hit. Every time we solve a small problem in our heads, we feel a tiny rush of control. Every time we anticipate a possible future event, we feel like we're preparing ourselves. Every time we replay a conversation, we feel like we are rewriting the past, even though we are not. This is why we can't stop overthinking. The brain has tricked us into believing that thinking is a form of protection, when in reality, it is the very thing keeping us unhappy. Imagine this: you are walking in nature. The sun is shining. A gentle breeze moves through the trees. Birds are singing. Everything is perfect. But instead of enjoying the moment, your mind starts whispering. What will I do next? Did I say the right thing earlier? I hope tomorrow goes well. What if something bad happens? And just like that, you are no longer here. You are lost in a world of thought. Disconnected from the present moment. Life is happening right in front of you. But you are somewhere else. This is how most of us live. We are addicted to thinking because we are afraid of stillness. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in complete silence without feeling uncomfortable? Most people can't do it for more than a few seconds. The moment they stop distracting themselves with thoughts, a deep restlessness arises. They feel the need to check their phone, turn on the TV, start a conversation, anything to avoid the silence. Why? Because silence reveals something most people don't want to face. The mind is not in control. The mind is just noise. And yet, beyond that noise, there is something far greater. Presence. Pure, undisturbed awareness. A space of knowing that does not require thinking. A space where you simply exist. Where you are not defined by your thoughts. Where you are free. So, how do we break free from this addiction to thinking? First, we must understand that thoughts are not the problem. The problem is our attachment to them. Thoughts will always arise. The mind will always produce noise. But the real question is, do you have to listen? Right now, as you read this, take a moment to notice your thoughts. Watch them as if they were not yours. Observe how they come and go, without trying to control them. Can you see it? The moment you step back and watch your thoughts rather than being your thoughts, something incredible happens. The mind begins to quiet down. Not because you forced it to, but because you no longer give it power. Thoughts only control us when we believe them. The moment we see them for what they are, just temporary mental energy, we reclaim our freedom. So here's a radical challenge, for the next 24 hours. Every time you catch yourself overthinking, simply stop and take a deep breath. Instead of following the thought, simply say, I do not need to think this right now. And then, return to presence. This simple practice, if done consistently, will change your life. Because presence is not something you achieve. It is something you return to. And the more you return to it, the more natural it becomes. But the question remains, if we are not our thoughts, then who are we? The truth about who you really are, and why you've forgotten. If you are not your thoughts, not your past, not your worries, not the endless voice in your head that narrates your life, then who are you? Most people live their entire lives without ever answering this question. They assume they are their name, their job, their history, their preferences, their fears, their ambitions. But is that true? Or is it just a story you've been told? And more importantly, a story you've been telling yourself? Look at it this way, if you were to lose all your memories right now, if every detail of your past disappeared, would you still exist? Something in you knows that the answer is yes. But what is that something? It is the same awareness that has been with you since the beginning. Before you learned your name. Before you were shaped by society. By opinions. By self-doubt. There was a moment in your childhood when you didn't think about who you were. You simply were. You played. You explored. You felt emotions fully. You weren't stuck in the trap of self-definition. Of labels. Of overanalysis. Then, slowly, the conditioning began. People told you who you were. What you should do. What was expected. What was right and wrong. You learned how to fit into the world. You learned to see yourself through the lens of others. And in that process, something profound was lost, your connection to your own being. This is why we suffer. Not because life is inherently difficult, but because we have forgotten our true nature. We have mistaken the mask for the person. We have mistaken the thoughts for the thinker. We have mistaken the mind for the self. But here's the secret that every great spiritual master has tried to tell us. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. Right now. Listen to your thoughts. Don't try to change them. Just observe. Can you see that there is a space between you and them? A distance? That space is your true self. Pure awareness. And this awareness does not suffer. It does not cling. It does not judge. It simply is. It has always been there. Silently watching. Waiting for you to recognize it. But here's the problem, we have spent so much time identifying with our thoughts that we no longer know how to be without them. We are addicted to mental noise. We are terrified of silence. Because silence forces us to confront something deeper, something beyond words. Beyond ideas. Beyond the illusion of control. Have you ever wondered why monks sit in meditation for hours, staring at a wall? It is not because they are waiting for some grand revelation. It is because they are undoing decades of mental conditioning. They are unlearning. They are returning to the stillness that was always there. So how do we return to that? How do we remember who we really are? It is not about doing something. It is about undoing. It is about letting go of every false belief. Every mental habit. Every attachment that keeps us trapped in illusion. You do not need to achieve presence. You simply need to stop resisting it. Right now. In this moment. Do nothing. Don't think. Don't analyze. Just be. Feel the air on your skin. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Notice the space around you. In this moment, there is no past. No future. No identity. Just this. And this is freedom. But the mind will not give up easily. It will fight. It will tell you that you need to worry. That you need to think. That you need to plan. That you need to keep analyzing. It will say, if I don't keep thinking, how will I solve my problems? But here's the irony. The moment you stop overthinking, you start seeing things clearly. The moment you stop clinging to thoughts, solutions come effortlessly. This is the paradox of life. When we chase, we struggle. When we let go, things flow. So I leave you with one final question, perhaps the most important question of your life. If you could exist in pure awareness, without attachment to your thoughts, without identification with your mind, who would you be?